Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now that we've talked for 2 hours prior.
Yep. We're ready to record. Okay. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back.
To another episode of Sometimes Buzz Slaps. I'm Mac.
I'm Jubes.
And today is book club number 10.
10? Yeah. Numero 10.
Diaz.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, 10. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I just had to get there.
Yeah. I know 10 is en français.
I was gonna do dos, but I was like, that's two, so.
Or cumin is in,
Cumin?
in Suomea.
In which?
Finnish.
Oh, okay.
Suomea.
Minion Valley's from Finnish, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was writing up a description and I was like, what language did this come from? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Minion Valley's Finnish.
Okay, so I was right then.
Perfect.
Amazing. What's new with you, Mac? Daddy?
Okay, so a couple things. So one of our guests that you guys will hear from in second week of September, so a couple weeks from now.
Yep.
He was hosting a cremate your past workshop and stuff. So I went to that on Monday.
Yeah, I completely missed that.
Yeah. I sent you the link. I didn't know if you just didn't want to go. I didn't want to follow up and feel like you being like, oh no, I just couldn't make it or whatever.
No, I didn't have mental space for that.
Yeah.
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 Shoot.
It came at the perfect time for me because my chest felt like 12 sandbags were on it that day.
Yeah.
It was just like everything boiling up to a point, and I was like, I'm done. And then I had a good cry.
Good. Crying after yoga is good.
No, that was before it.
Oh, good. Good. My eye is watering right now. So it feels like I'm crying right now.
Yeah, I had a good cry, and then, which never happens, and then went to the workshop and whatever. But yeah, it was actually really good. It was like 2-ish hours.
Oh, nice.
They had scheduled time for like 2.5 if it took that long. But the whole premise of it is like group work and group sharing and connection and whatnot. And then on top of that, there was also like a yin yoga flow. So it was really nice to get back into yin yoga and like stretch and whatever. And then one of our friend's moms, she was there in it as well. And so we were beside each other. And there was one point she looks over and she's like, how are you so flexible? I was like, I was a figure skater. That's why.
Right.
But then the host was like, doesn't matter how flexible you are. It's like, it's how you feel, right? And I was like,
how did you find the journaling portion of it? Because I remember we talked about that.
It was good. It wasn't as long as I was anticipating.
Oh, okay.
It was just like you had to write down something from your past or present that you just wanted to release.
Oh, nice.
And then there was a burning, like a fire kind of
cool
ritual towards the end of it and stuff. So we just
it's just like I release XYZ and then you burn it to actually release it.
But you wrote it down in words, like things that just don't suit you anymore, things you want to release, things that you're letting go of once you leave the doors tonight. Yeah. And then and they burned it at the end, and so it was fun. It was I had a good time. Yeah. It was definitely weird to get into, like to talk about yourself, right? It's a muscle you don't
did you have to be like,
it was a little bit. It was a group sharing. Yeah.
Oh,
it was a group sharing portion
okay.
of something you want to release and stuff.
Right.
And so it was like naturally, like I talked about my hair and my health and all that things that come with that. Right. Yeah. Like I was like, oh yeah, like I've carried a lot of this emotion that I wanted to release. All throughout my life, and then it just really kind of escalated in after high school when I just used partying and drinking and to feel relevant and happy, and even though it was a fake happy, which then caused some aggressive physical changes, right? My hair, losing half my hair, gaining a bunch of weight, having like organs near failure, and so that had an aggressive physical halt on this. I was like, I'm no longer allowed to use this mechanism, otherwise I will die at 22.
This isn't no longer healthy.
And so it was like a 4 years now. I'm coming on 4 years of coming off of that.
Oh wow,
it's been 4 years of work from that moment, which is
that's exciting.
Nuts to think about, though.
Should we throw a party?
4 years.
Here's to not dying.
like actually, I just never thought about it though, because like that would have been in June when I found out about everything.
Wow.
And it was 2019.
It's crazy to look back, hey?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like physically, I still am bigger. Mm-hmm. Like I haven't lost the weight fully from that, but I have put on a ton of muscle.
Yes.
And my hair is back. Mm-hmm. And my face looks normal again.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I feel good. Yeah. You know?
And that's most important.
Yeah. I still want to get my body fat percentage down just because for health purposes. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I don't need to be carrying extra fat around my organs just because.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not like an immediate overhaul pressure halt. Mm-hmm. Right, even when we go to live blood cell analysis now, right, I take it because I'm like, it's advice and it's good. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't so like I'm stopping everything I'm doing to follow this advice as it was for the first time that I went. Yes, now it's more preventative maintenance instead of like an absolute system overhaul. Yeah, it's like okay, yeah, no, I can feel my liver like lagging, and I need to heal that. So I will drink more dandelion tea and do all these other things. But if I forget it, I don't feel guilty. Right. Yes. It's not like this is life or death for me. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which, and very much it was during that time. Yeah. Well, that's good. So, went to that workshop. And then last night, my boyfriend and I went and played soccer again. 4th time. I'm getting a lot better. Ooh. Catch me at my soccer career at 29. Good luck. I will not be in the stands. I love you. I hate soccer. Yeah. No, it was fun. He's like teaching me different like tricks and stuff and things to do. Mm-hmm. There's one trick where you have to kick the ball, like you have to swing your one leg behind the other leg and kick it that way. That's exactly what I was thinking of when you said tricks. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's what I envisioned. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what the name is. He's told me the name. I can't remember. Yeah. Regardless. So I've been doing it and I've actually been pretty good at it the past 3 times I tried it. Mm-hmm. Yesterday when we were just like kicking it back and forth, I went to try to do that. Yeah. Got too confident, kicked my foot out from underneath myself. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I just let out a little yelp and he just fucking thought it was the funniest thing. It was a yelp, thud, and then I was like, hey, it took me a long time to get that. I'm actually impressed how long that took. Oh, that's amazing. That's so sick. And then when I was in the shower after that, I guess he was like kicking around a tennis ball and he did the same thing. He like kicked his foot up from underneath him and he bit it as well. Just hear a giant thud and you're like, hello? Exactly. So it was fun. Oh, that's awesome. And then one other thing. So my boyfriend is Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And so he's been getting me into like all of these Caribbean snacks, or getting me to try these foods and snacks now. Mm-hmm. And so there's this peanut punch that is from Jamaica originally, and it threw me. The first time I tried it, I was not expecting it to be what it is. I'm actually into them now. I kind of like them. Michaela's described it as a peanut butter milkshake. Yeah. But it's not, so because it's in a juice box, it's not what I expected it to be. Yeah. But what it tastes like is a peanut butter milkshake. Well, because when you brought it out and I saw punch, I was like, oh, like she just brought like a fruit punch milkshake or a juice box, like that's sick. Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, it's peanut punch. And I was like, no. No. Because it's nothing you would ever grab for, Jubes. Oh, no, 100%. No. The ingredients are water, peanut butter, sugar, skim milk powder, caramel, sodium bicarbonate, vanilla flavor, and salt. And stabilizers. So it's literally like a peanut milkshake. Do you want to try? You look so scared. She's shaking. I'm unreasonably nervous about this. I know, and I'm sweating. It's just a drink. You don't have to. But I should. Keep in mind, Journey hates peanut butter, and this just tastes like you're drinking peanut butter. Oh, God. That is not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it is like you were just drinking peanut butter. Like, that tastes like smoothies that my mom used to make. Yeah. Well, it just tastes like, peanut butter milkshake. If you blended peanut butter, milk, and ice cream together, it would taste like peanut punch. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, so that's kind of fun. Yeah, that's very odd. It's definitely been like the one Caribbean food that has thrown me the most thus far. Because the other one there's like island sodas and then some like coconut water things and whatnot, and that's all like, I'm like, okay, like it's a soda.
What's an island soda?
It just tastes like a normal soda, but it's like from
Caribbean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He also showed me, it's like the malt beverages too. I'm not really into the whole malt sodas that they have. I don't know, the flavor is not my thing. But he's made me try like a malt soda from Barbados. And whatnot too.
What's the purpose of this drink? Because that feels like like it doesn't make sense to me to drink peanut butter. So I mean, like what do you get from it? Like, is it high in protein? Or is it just like no different than drinking orange juice?
Yeah, it's just like a drink that they had growing up.
Interesting.
It's just like from my understanding, it's just like a Jamaican drink. Like when you know how we buy Five Alive, they'd buy peanut punch.
Wild.
Yeah. He does have a lot of peanut butter usage. I wonder if it's just like a common...
Yeah, if it's like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are peanuts cheap?
I think so.
I don't know.
Cheaper than like cashews and almonds and everything.
Oh, that's true. Oh my gosh, so this is like peanut butter milk.
Pretty
Except
much.
it has skim milk in it.
Skim milk powder.
Yeah.
Huh. But... So it's fun to try all the cultural stuff.
Yeah, it tastes exactly how you describe it. Yeah. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting it to taste exactly how you described it.
It's like you shake. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross.
You got anything to share?
Well, I went to the emergency room with Graylin like Tuesday.
Okay.
He was coming, like, we went for a big bike ride Sunday. And then he was coming over to set it up. He has like a little blow up kiddie pool. And we didn't want to set it on his front lawn. So we were going to put it in my garage because the sun was shining right in there. So he was carrying it over. And in between the house that we live in and like our neighbors, there's two like concrete steps like going into the basement ones. And there's about 6 inches in between them. So Graylin tried to like jump in between them. But the ground was farther down than his leg, so he landed all of his weight and everything that he jumped onto his knee onto the cement.
Oh, yikes.
And so he just like, yeah, it hurt so bad. You could see like tendons and stuff from like where he scratched it. It was kind of cool. I'm not good. When Graylin hurts himself, I just find it fascinating. Like, I was like, wow, that's so cool. And he's like, Tony, I'm dying. And I'm like, well, it's cool.
Well, because he hits himself hard.
Yeah.
Every time.
Does. And so then it was like...
he sliced his hand open and sliced a tendon the last time he had a really bad injury.
Literally. So, like, here we are again a year later.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, oh, okay. So he just kind of, like, sat in the house a little bit because it was, like, plus 35 outside. And so I was out, like, blowing up the kiddie pool. And then he was, he just, like, came out and I was like, where were you? He's like, I had to lay down. I was like, oh, no. He's like, I haven't felt that amount of pain in so long. And I was like, sick, we love that. And, like, you could see a goose egg forming, like, already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he worked Monday, as one does when you can't walk.
Yeah.
And then he worked half of Tuesday, and his leg hurt so bad. Like, he actually, like, got stuck getting out of his truck because he couldn't bend his leg.
Oh, no.
Luckily, it wasn't, like, his gas pedal leg, so he could still drive.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, he's like, I'm going to the emergency room. And I was like, do you want company? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So we went to just, like, a smaller one. And then we were only there for, like, 3.5 hours, everything considered, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
We did wait for 3 hours, and then everything else happened in the last half hour, but
yeah,
it was still, like, we had a room right away, and everyone was super nice, and it was super chill.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just got x-rays. He's got really great bones. It was cool to see his x-rays.
Yeah.
And, yeah, nothing was broken. We were, like, looking at it. I was like, nothing's broken on here that I can see. I don't read x-rays for a living, but I was like, I know what's not broken.
Yeah.
And then the doctor came in and was like, yeah, there's nothing broken, so, like... good luck.
Yeah, nothing
like,
we can do.
Yeah, he's like, it's kind of tough because it's your knee, right? So you're always using it. There's nothing we can really do to, like, stabilize. Like, he's like, I can give you a splint if you want, but whatever. And he's like, do you want, like, a couple days off work or anything? And I was like, no, like,
yeah,
not really. So, well, we, 2 days later, Bryce's mom was down, and we went to go visit them at the site, and since he still couldn't bend his knee, he was walking around like a crackhead. It was so funny, because he'd be, like, walking, but he'd just kind of have to swing his one leg, so he'd step, swing, step, swing, step, swing, and I was like, girl, you look so dumb.
Yeah. Very Terry Fox.
Yeah, very. It was so funny, but
I mean, except he had a fake
a little
leg.
less serious than Terry Fox. Yes,
but the motion.
Yeah, it was so funny. But yeah, now he can bend it almost 90 degrees, so that's good. He's back working out again. So yeah. So I was like, on the way to the hospital, because after going to live blood analysis, my anxiety is a little bit under control. And we were on the way to the hospital, and I was like, are you so excited for the doctor to tell you that nothing's wrong? He's like, yeah, I can't wait. I was like, what a not journey sentence.
I know.
So I was not worried about it. And then he fell asleep waiting for the doctor.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the not journey sentence, that's on growth.
I know, right?
You've had a lot of...
Exactly. I was like, look at me go.
A lot of growth.
Yeah. So that's fun.
So now we've done our first book club intro ever. So we never do a catch up.
Do we never actually do a catch up on book club?
No.
Oh, we haven't even introduced our book.
No.
Okay, so today...
On Instagram we did.
That's true. It was on time too.
Yeah, I know, because I thought ahead.
It's the first month for everything. So we're doing the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
So, powerful lessons in personal change. I don't like reading with this cover on, so I always take it off, but this book doesn't show you the title on the front, so that's why we have that.
Yeah.
So
this book was given to me by my dad in 2015. Mm-hmm. And it has sat collecting dust until we had it on our list, and I was like, hey, I have that book.
And you can tell exactly where Michaela started to read it, because then all of a sudden the highlighting stops. Yeah. There's like 2 or 3 highlighting, and then there's like a dog ear, and then that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a dog ear at least. Yeah. Yeah, there is. Page 38. Oh, that's funny.
17-year-old Michaela said no.
Well, yes.
25 Michaela said, let's go.
Let's do it.
Alrighty.
So, yeah, it's divided into
4 parts.
4 parts. So I read the first 2, Michaela read the second 2, because it is a more, like, it's a denser book, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of just wanted to split it up a little bit. I was going to read the whole thing, and then I reached about halfway, and I was like, nah, if I don't have to, I'm not going to.
No.
But I think that just works better, because then we're, like, teaching each other a little bit, and then we can go back and read it if we want to.
Yeah, we've been enjoying the whole teach yourself or teach each other kind of method, so we might continue reformatting book club episodes like that, or for some...
Exactly.
We just had a little meeting prior to this for season 2, so expect some fun stuff come our 1 year. That's next week.
Exactly. And especially, like, time-wise for book clubs, like, if they are thicker, it does make sense just to split them up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so part 1 is paradigms and principles. And so the first, like, chapter or whatever is titled Inside Out, and it's not one of the habits. It's just kind of telling you, like, kind of what the book is about, but also that you need to work on yourself from the inside out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I just put that together as I was saying that. Which is embarrassing. But he kind of just talks about, like, the difference between, like, personality and character ethics. Like, in order to change ourselves, we have to change our perceptions. Like, the way we see the world, or, like, we're conditioned to how we see the world or whatever.
Yeah.
And talks a lot about, like, paradigms and paradigm shifts, and how, like, our paradigms are how we see the world kind of thing. And then he talks about, like, there are times to teach and there are times not to teach. So, like, sometimes, like, if someone makes a mistake, instead of being like, well, I told you so, like, use this as a learning moment, you can just be like, yep, that sucks. Because they still, like, they learned their lesson, right? Like, you don't need to kind of kick them when they're down. And then he talks a lot about, like, kids with that, in specific. And so he talks about, like, sharing. And it was a very, very interesting perspective that he had about how, like, a sense of possessing needs to come before a sense of genuine sharing. So the kid needs to believe that whatever they're being asked to share is theirs, and they will get it back at the end of the day in order to feel comfortable sharing with someone. And I resonated with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Because if I had something and my brother and sister were playing with it, and it got broken, all done. Gone for everyone, including myself. So it was never fully mine. Or like if they just took it, then well, it's theirs now. Right? Yeah. So it was like there was never anything that was mine. So I was quite possessive over some of my things. Right? And even with like with the Chachis like playing in the podcast room, I get very nervous of like, don't touch my stuff. Because I don't want you to break it because then I can't have it anymore. Even though I know that if they do break something, they're more than willing to replace it, right? Yeah. It just comes from like that.
I'm trying to think if I have a similar thing. I think it was pretty well drawn. Like the line in the sand was pretty well drawn of like, I have mine, my sister has hers, and sometimes it's the same item. Yeah. Right? Where I get possessive is if my sister lost hers, she would then come and say like, oh, you stole mine, give it back. Oh. And I'm like, no. Yeah. Mine's been sitting here. Yeah. That's tough. I didn't touch your stuff or whatnot. And so I kind of, my possessiveness comes from like partially of that, and then also I just like my things.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And I've had like young cousins, I've had people just like ruin stuff just for what? Yeah. And I'm like, don't touch my shit. Well, don't. Exactly. I've had like, they're all accidents, right? But I'm like, there's no reason why this should have happened. Yeah. So why did it happen?
Yeah. Where like my brother and sister would constantly delete my entire camera roll, like as soon as they were using it, kind of thing, which is good looking back on it because there was some embarrassing stuff on there. But at the time, that was devastating. Yeah. And then I even had a cousin steal my iPod because she wanted it. Yeah. So it's like.
Yeah. And so there's things like that. And also, I think part of it is a comment I got a lot, which is purely psychological. But now I realize how much I carried it with me. Is about my hair. I had so many relatives joke with me that they were going to shave my hair off in my sleep because it's so nice and they wanted it.
That's creepy.
That I had a genuine fear for a while there of waking up bald.
Yeah, that's fair because kids don't know that you're joking.
No.
Right?
And it's just like, it was the frequency of it. I'm like, are you actually going to do this?
Yeah, right?
Huh. But it, like, so that also is like possessiveness too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And even like, I don't know, when our old boss would be like, oh, I like your stuffy, can I have it? Or, oh, I like your hair, can I have it? Like, I'll trade you. It's like, no, because kids don't understand that that's funny haha right now because they, like, that's why got your nose. Like, yeah. I don't know. Agree. So that was just something that I thought was very interesting and was very enlightening so that when I have kids, I can kind of be like, this is yours. Like, it will always be returned to you. Yeah. If they break it, you will get another one. Like, you don't need to worry about that kind of thing. Oh, and I have page 51 quote, the point of this book. So that's probably something I should read. I didn't highlight it or identify it at all. So, I think maybe it's supposed to be inside out means to start first with self, even more fundamentally to start with the most inside part of self, with your paradigms, your character, and your motives. It says, if you want to have a happy marriage, be the kind of person who generates positive energy and sidesteps negative energy rather than empowering it. If you want to have a more pleasant cooperative teenager, be a more understanding, empathetic, consistent, loving parent. If you want to have more freedom, more latitude in your job, be a more responsible, a more helpful, a more contributing employee. If you want to be trusted, be trustworthy. If you want the secondary greatness of recognized talent, focus first on the primary greatness of character. Yeah. And that's pretty much what this is just be who you say you are kind of thing. So yeah, we need to work inside out. Nothing good comes from working outside in. And then he goes into an overview of the 7 habits. So he defines a habit as the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. And they kind of move us on a maturity continuum from dependence to independence to interdependence. And so I know we kind of had that as a topic, and I think it would be... Yeah, it would be kind of interesting to... I don't know if we want to delve more deeply into it. Yeah. But he defines dependence as the paradigm of you. You take care of me, you come through for me, I blame you for the results. Independence is the paradigm of I. I can do it, I'm responsible, I'm self-reliant, I can choose. This is the one that society has us thinking is the best option. And so interdependence is the paradigm of we. We can do it, we can cooperate, we can combine our talents and abilities and create something greater together. It's what's needed in business partnerships and marriages and families, etc. But you must become independent first before you can become interdependent. So it's kind of just the need for community. which is interesting because in a couple weeks with our guest, that's basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy the idea of becoming interdependent, but you do have to become independent first, and that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. I don't know where this stuff came from because it was gonna be tricky.
It's tricky,
but I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So then he talks about like balancing the importance of balancing the relationship between production and production capability. So goose and the golden egg metaphor, like you need to look after the goose so you can get the golden egg, but the goose is only valuable because of the golden egg that it produces, kind of thing. So that was a very interesting metaphor that he talked about.
Yeah.
And then he also talks about like how production capability is often or like production is prioritized in the workplace more so than your production capability, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So just kind of like reformatting that a little bit. And so then that was part one, just kind of like, what is this book telling you? Yeah, part two, private victory. So this is all about like working on yourself, like being victorious in private. Mm-hmm. So the first habit is be proactive. And so that is just like, that just means like you're responsible for your own life, kind of thing. So make decisions that are proactive and like benefit you. Your behavior is a result of your decisions, not your conditions. So it's very similar to what the Courage to be Disliked said. Mm-hmm. This one is basically Courage to be Disliked, power of words.
Yeah.
In one, because he says, never say you have to do anything because you are choosing to do that. Mm-hmm. And you are kind of weighing the consequences of doing it or not. Yeah. Is what he was doing. And so then he talks about like the circle of concern and the circle of influence. So the circle of influence are things that we're concerned about but have control over. Mm-hmm. And so proactive people focus on the circle of influence, while reactive people focus on the circle of concern where they have no control. Okay. Kind of thing. So the circle of concern is filled with the haves. Like, I'll only be happy when I have. If only I had. Yeah. Whereas the circle of influence is filled with the bees. I can be XYZ. So kind of like, if you want to have a happy marriage, be someone who is happy. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah. I agree with it. There's a lot of wisdom in this book.
Very much so.
Which I don't know why I was surprised about that. But I'll get into that at the end.
And so then he just like talks about like you carry your own weather. Reactive people get like affected by other people's weather, but you carry your own weather as a proactive person. Yeah. And so then at the end of this chapter, he actually has like application suggestions for the habit, which is kind of fun.
He does that throughout the entire book. Mm-hmm. So at the end of each chapter, there is applications.
Yeah. And then at the end, I think of this chapter, he also had like a summary, but he doesn't do that with the other ones.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so he also stresses the importance of consequences and mistakes. So, like, past mistakes are in our circle of concern, whereas the proactive approach is to acknowledge it instantly, correctly, and then learn from it. Move on. Don't continue to carry that forward. Yeah. So, in habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. And so this means to live your life in a way where you would be proud of it and it's contributed to the version you have of your life as a whole. Okay. So it's based a lot on imagination and conscience. Mm-hmm. Not conscious, but so it's kind of like if you were to look back on your life, would you still do things kind of the same way? Like just having like carrying a confidence in all of your choices. Yeah. And that if something goes bad, you're willing to like take responsibility, be like, "Oh, sorry, like that's just how it was," but then also like standing firm in your beliefs, kind of thing.
Yeah, is it to be like to live a life you're proud of in a sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in a sense, where like if you're making a decision and you're like, we are doing this decision, and then something goes wrong with that decision, you're like, well, that sucks. Like I'm sorry I chose that decision. There's nothing we can really do about it now. Going forward, I won't make that decision again or whatever. But just taking accountability as well.
You did what you thought was right in that moment.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah. And then, so he also talks about, like, the center of your life. And so with that, he talks about 4 concepts of security, guidance, wisdom, and power. Mm-hmm. And so these 4 factors, when they're present together and harmonized, they create a force of a noble personality, a balanced character, and a beautifully integrated individual, mm-hmm. quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And so he talks about how whatever we hold at the center of our lives will then be the source of those 4 factors. Mm-hmm. And so then he goes into a bunch of centers that we could have and kind of the pros and cons with them. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to label them and not go into the pros and cons. Mm-hmm. So we have like spouse-centeredness, family-centeredness, money-centeredness, possession-centeredness, work-centeredness, pleasure centers, friend-enemy centers, church centers, and self-centered. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really say that one of these is better than the other, mm-hmm. but he does suggest that the ideal center is one that's based on principles. Okay. So we have a solid foundation for development of our like 4 life supporting factors of security, guidance, wisdom, and power or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because when we have correct principles, I'm going to put air quotes around that, mm-hmm. they don't change. They don't waver. So it's just kind of like having a very strong foundational beliefs that you kind of base the rest of your life on, whatever that looks like for you. Okay. But if you are too focused on your spouse, then you're not living for yourself. But if you're too focused on your family, you're not living for yourself. But if you're too focused on living for yourself, then you're not focusing on family and spouse and all of that other things. Yeah. So it's just kind of like a balance.
Yeah, he's very balance focused, which is, I was like, spot on.
Hashtag balance.
I know. Bang on for that.
Yeah, and so that's kind of like, he's like, each of these is good in moderation. Yeah. Kind of thing. So that's what we've said about a lot. Yeah. And then he also talked about how to tap into your right brain, which is creativity, which is kind of cool. Because at that time that I read that, I was researching for a creativity episode. So I was like, ooh, cool. Okay. But I don't remember what it is now. Mm-hmm. So he also talked about like the power of affirmations and visualizing things, which is funny because in The Courage to Be Disliked, he firmly was against affirmations. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting because up until then they were like, it's still very parallel. Yeah. He talks about making like mission statements for yourself and for your family. Yeah. And the importance of having one of those in the home. So he suggests like to print out this mission statement and like have it on the wall and everyone sees it. But he also stresses the importance of having everyone in your family contribute to that. So it's not like mom and dad made a mission statement, kids have to deal with it. Yeah. Kids are also a part of it. Yeah. Which I loved that.
Well, it brings a sense of unity.
Exactly. And he said, without involvement, there's no commitment. Yeah. So if the kids aren't involved in this, they're not going to commit to it, right? Yeah. And so it was really cool how family focused he was as well. Mm-hmm. And so then habit 3 is put first things first. And so this is the exercise of independent will toward becoming principle centered. So this kind of tells you how to make principles your center. So he says the way you spend your time is a result of the way you see your time and the way you see your priorities. Okay. So you have to say no to things that won't serve your proactive self, even if they feel important at the time, right? Yeah. And I think we've kind of talked about that a lot, especially over this summer where it's been like so busy and so chaotic and our priorities have been constantly shifting and all over the place and we're just kind of like, whoa, I don't like this. So it's kind of been one of those things where we have to refigure out our time. And when I was reading that, I was like, oh, okay. I had been really like sedentary that week. Yeah. And so I was just kind of like, I need to start moving. I want to I want to start moving again. Yeah. And so then that's kind of what has re-inspired me to start going to the gym again and making that more of a priority because that's something that I want to do with my time.
Well, now you found something that works for you in this phase. Exactly. Right? Whereas you did F45 until it became draining. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, no, this no longer is helping me, it's just stressing me out.
Yeah, exactly.
So you cut it off, you refocus, and now you're doing this.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like, okay, now I try and go to the gym every morning before I come home and then I make a good breakfast and then I eat lunch and I like focus on work throughout the afternoon and then make supper. And it's just kind of created a much better routine for me as well, which I'm really appreciating. Yeah. But yeah, so then he also talks about 4 different quadrants that people can spend their time in, but the most important is quadrant 2. because it allows you to see through the lens of importance rather than urgency. So it was it was so convoluted that I couldn't really write anything down that would make sense.
Okay. Does he talk about what each quadrant is?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's kind of, so imagine a graph where the top is like urgent, non-urgent, and then on the side it's important, not important.
Okay.
So quadrant 1 is urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is not urgent, important. Quadrant 3 is not important, urgent. And quadrant 4 is not urgent, not important.
Okay.
So in urgent, important, he has like crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects.
Yeah.
In quadrant 2, he has like prevention, production capability activities, relationship building, recognizing new opportunities, planning, recreation.
So you're saying that the planning of things is more important than the urgency of deadlines or...
Yeah, because if you have a solid plan, then you're not like scrambling to get things together kind of thing. So yeah, and then in quadrant 3, there's like interruptions, like some phone calls, some mail, some reports, some meetings, like popular activities. And then in quadrant 4, it's like trivia, busy work, time wasters, pleasant activities, whatever.
Okay.
So it's just kind of restructuring how you spend your time instead of prioritizing making a haircut appointment.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of like lessens your schedule a little bit because you're only working on what needs to get done, but is also beneficial once it's done. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Okay.
Very difficult to wrap your brain around. As a people pleaser. And then he goes into like what happens if you prioritize one quadrant over the other. Okay. And so when you prioritize quadrant 1, you get stress, burnout, crisis management. You're always just putting out fires.
That's me right now.
So that sounds about right. Yeah. In quadrant 3, which is urgent, not important, short-term focused, crisis management, reputation, chameleon character. So you just kind of like blend in with whatever. You're not really like... Yeah. You see goals and plans as worthless. You feel victimized, out of control, shallow or broken relationships. And then... if you spend time mostly in quadrants 3 and 4, it just leads to irresponsible lives. So you're like totally responsibility, fired from jobs, dependent on others or institutions for like the basics. Yeah. Whereas if you were in quadrant 2, there's vision, perspective, balance, discipline, control, fewer crises. Okay. So he kind of goes into that. I have mostly blocked that out because it was so much. It said so much without saying anything. Okay. And so I was just kind of like, sick. I don't understand what you're talking about, or I don't see the distinction between each of these quadrants. Like, how can you prove to me that quadrant 2 is what's actually going to be better? Yeah. Kind of thing.
So it's almost like a read it slow and digest it, or read it a couple of times.
Yeah. And so it was just kind of like, whatever. And then he also talked about, like, what it takes to say no, because you have to say no to other activities that aren't in your quadrant 2 priorities, even though they might still be urgent. Yeah. Kind of thing. And then he talks about like the key to effective management is delegation. And then he talks about 2 different kinds of delegation. There's stewardship delegation and method delegation. Yeah. So, he's pro stewardship delegation. And so he used an example of his family, dividing up chores in the house. So like, and then just kind of like almost having like a chore board where he's like, okay, dad pays the mortgage, mom feeds the baby, son does this or whatever. So like they're kind of pointing out that, okay, mom and dad have over 60 plus hours of extra work in a week, so the kids need to take on some chores as well. So he goes through the jobs with them and gives them simple instructions, and then kind of tells them they're the boss, and if they need help that he will help them if he has time, kind of thing. And so one example was his kid offered to start like taking care of the yard. Okay. And so he's like, okay, so he went over like the expectations that he had for what it looked like to take care of the yard and what he wanted from them and when they'll have check-ins. Yeah. And then he kind of noticed throughout the week that the kid just wasn't doing anything. So instead of being like disciplining him for not doing his job or whatever, he kind of structured it as like a business meeting. Yeah. And was like, hey, like, what can I do? Like, it doesn't seem like you're like holding up your end of the bargain. Just wondering if there's anything I can do to help you. Like if you need any help, because I said that I would help you. Yeah. And so then they go through and they kind of restructure and like gives the kid just a little bit more direction. Yeah. And the kid is then able to complete it, and he's more excited and willing and motivated to do that. So that was a very interesting way to look at that.
Yeah.
It's just working together and just being like, yeah, I don't know. It was very interesting. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what method delegation is, but I think that one is just like, I'm going to micromanage you while you do that. Like, I'm going to delegate this to you, but you have to do it the way I want it done.
Yeah.
Instead of like...
So it's like a form of training in a sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And then he just says, like, trust is the highest form of human motivation. And so by, like, trusting your kid to do that and giving them the autonomy and stuff to do that, that's what's going to motivate them to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that was all that I had for my 3 habits.
Cool. Well, then that goes into part 3, which is labeled public victory. And so it starts with the paradigms of interdependence for this one. And so it opens with a quote that I like that says, real self-respect comes from the dominion over self from true independence. And that's the focus on habits of 1, 2, and 3, as Journey just mentioned.
Yeah.
And so again, he reiterates that interdependence is a choice only independent people can make.
Right.
And so then he starts touching on the emotional bank account. And so the emotional bank account is a metaphor to describe the amount of trust that has been built in a relationship. And so the feeling of safeness that you have with another human being, right? So if you respect your boss, if you have your friends, if you trust your partner, if you like your parents, all that kind of stuff comes from an emotional bank account.
Right.
So the 6 major deposits that you can put into someone's emotional bank account is understanding the individual, attending to the little things, keeping commitments, clarifying expectations, and underneath this one, something that stuck out to me was the cause of almost all relationship difficulties is rooted in conflicting or ambiguous expectations about rules and goals.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? I don't know what you're saying. You don't know what I'm doing. We're fighting over what.
Yeah.
Right? So number 5 is showing personal integrity, which is basically conforming to the reality of our words.
Okay.
Right? So keeping promises and fulfilling expectations.
Yeah.
And so one of the most important ways to manifest integrity is to be loyal to those who are not present. So when you defend the absent, you gain trust of the present.
Right. Yeah.
So he kind of goes into a supervisor example of 2 people talking about the supervisor and being like, oh, he's the worst. I hate him. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Doing nothing about it. Versus the one who, like, if someone's talking to you to complain and then you're like, I think that's a really good idea. We should bring this up together. We should figure out a way to format this and bring it up and see if there's anything that can change.
Yeah.
It allows the trust of the present so that, say you have a falling out with that person, then later on, that person knows that you're shit talking them.
Exactly.
Just to talk with no proactive behaviors around it.
Yeah.
And then finally, 6 is apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal. So a mistake.
Right.
Or like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hold up to my word. How can I make it up to you?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how we introed it here. So then it moves into habit 4, which is think win-win. And so this is the principles of interpersonal leadership. So the 6 paradigms of human interaction are the win-win, which is seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions, cooperation, not competition.
Okay, yep.
So it's like, it's not your way or my way. It's an our way or a better way.
Right.
And the second one is win-lose. And so in a leadership example, this is an authoritarian approach.
Okay.
Right? I win, you lose means that I get my way and you don't get yours.
Right.
I'm the parent, therefore I said so. Right? And then in the academic world, it reinforces this paradigm with the standard grade setting that it is. If you're not doing this, then you've lost.
Right. Okay,
so it reinforces comparison, which has a lot of negative effects.
Yeah, definitely.
The second one is lose-win. So it's I win, I lose, and you win, which is arguably worse than the I win, you lose.
Okay.
Because it has no standards.
Okay.
So you have no demands or expectations or vision for yourself. So you want to please and seek strength from feeling accepted.
Yeah.
You have little courage to express your emotions, and you're easily intimidated by the ego strength of others.
Yep.
In leadership terms, it's permissiveness because these people bury a lot of feelings. It arises as like psychosomatic problems, specifically in the nervous system, circulatory system, and respiratory system.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so this is from the feelings of resentment or disappointment that these people tend to swallow or just accept.
Yeah.
Right? I'm never going to win, so why should I try?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So it's that kind of...
I can resonate with that.
I figured you would. I was wondering what you would think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting for me that he argued that that's arguably worse than someone who's like, I'm the best, I know what I'm doing. But I understand it because the person who thinks that they're the best... I mean, yeah, you're losing people around you.
Yeah.
But that's easier to shift than the person who's like, I'm never going to accomplish anything, because then you're just harming yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I don't know. It's an interesting idea to play around with, like, if there is one that's better than the other, but it's good. The fourth one is the lose-lose paradigm. Mm-hmm. And so it's often when two determined, stubborn, ego-invested individuals interact.
Right.
So it's very vindictive, get back or get even.
Yeah.
And it's just, everything ends up being lose-lose because everything's
you can't work together to come to a common...
Exactly. Yeah. So, then the fifth one is win. Mm-hmm. So these people don't care if others lose. They're just focused on winning for themselves.
Okay. So
it's like, I don't care what you do. You're responsible for you. I'm responsible for me. I want to win. Because that's what is in my best interest.
Right.
And so this comes from a lot of initial negotiations when you're starting business with someone or when you're starting a new friendship, relationship, things like that. If you're new to it, you're more likely to pull away if that person doesn't have anything that you desire or want to be around.
Right.
Right. So if we started the podcast and we were negotiating ideas and you were like, no, I'm dead set on this. And I was like, that's not something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I would be winning by being like, okay, thank you so much. I don't want to be a part of this.
Right. So what was that one titled? Sorry?
Win.
Win. Okay.
Yeah. And then the sixth one is win-win or no deal. And so this implies that if you can't agree on a solution, then you agree to disagree amicably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like if we're both not winning, then we walk away from it.
Right.
And so this one also, it can feel very liberating because you have no need or desire to manipulate the other person into getting what you want. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, if it doesn't serve me, then it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So then there's 5 dimensions of win-win because this is the goal. Mm-hmm. This is what we want. So it starts with your character, and that's your foundation of understanding win-win. Yeah. And so under character, there's integrity, maturity, and abundance mentality. So it's basically like the value you place on yourself, the balance between courage and consideration, and then the abundance mentality is that there's enough to go around for everybody. Okay. Those who don't have that are under the scarcity mindset, and that's why they feel like they need to win because that's the only time they'll ever be able to win.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The abundance versus scarcity mindset is very, very fascinating. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
because a lot of it also, comes from either what you've been modeled or what you experience. Like same thing, like this is your toy, it's not going to be taken away from you. Mm-hmm. Someone with a scarcity mindset is always going to be afraid that it's going to be taken away from them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. So the second dimension is relationships. Mm-hmm. And so from our foundation of character, we can build win-win relationships. And this involves trust and a full emotional bank. Okay. Third one is agreements, sometimes called partnership or performance agreements. Mm-hmm. And so these shift the paradigm from a vertical to a horizontal way of thinking. Oh, okay. Yeah. This book really just wrapped in so many concepts that we've talked about.
Yeah. So is that like the same as like a vertical and horizontal relationship? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's essentially it. Right. So it's no longer like I'm not above you. It's not a hierarchy. Mm-hmm. We are all working toward the same goal. It doesn't matter if you're a new hire and I'm the CEO. Yeah. We're still working towards the same goal. Okay. Right.
Another thing I just wanted to say about this book is that he recommends reading one habit, working on that habit. Once you have that habit, starting the second habit kind of thing. And reading this book more than once so you can fully understand it.
Yeah, definitely. So underneath the win-win agreement specifically, it has the 5 elements. So you need to outline desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. Okay. So this is a really good source if you are someone who is in a leadership position at your job or if you have a business of your own. Mm-hmm. I would highly recommend to read it and consider it so that
definitely
you're not putting out fires and feeling with gypped employees or having unsatisfied outcomes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So number 4 is supportive systems. So if you put good people in bad systems, it won't work. You need good systems to create this win-win idea. You have to water the flowers you want to grow.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That makes sense.
We had a lot of that experience with our previous job.
Yeah.
It just needed to be restructured.
Exactly.
It just wasn't working the way it was.
It was very much a vertical system.
Yeah.
And it needed to be more of a horizontal.
Yeah.
Like more cooperative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a very, I'm going to do this for me. Like, I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was very much like, we are doing this because I say that this is the best way to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then number 5 is processes. So, see a problem from the other point of view, seek to understand, identify key issues and concerns, what results would you constitute a fully acceptable solution, and identify possible new options to achieve those results. So basically figure out all sorts of processes to get to the desired outcome.
Right.
So this leads into habit 5, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so it starts with the principles of empathetic communication. So then there's character communication, which is how you conduct yourself says more than how others say you are.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's the whole, it doesn't matter what people are gossiping or saying about you, how you move about the world says more about who you are.
Yeah.
And so empathetic listening comes from the idea that most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen to reply.
Yes.
And so empathetic listening gets inside another person's frame of reference, and you're able to fully engage with how they're feeling. And so this is part of the first, like, seek first to understand section of this.
Right.
So then there's 4 autobiographical responses that people tend to go into when you are listening to others. So the first is to evaluate whether you agree or disagree with what they're saying. Probe, ask further questions from your own frame of reference.
Right.
Advise, counsel based on your own experience, or interpret. You try to figure out and explain their motives and behavior based on our own motives and behavior.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So like when you're giving advice to a friend.
Yeah.
Right? Are you listening, or are you just trying to give something?
Well, that's something that we've even talked about, even like with relationships, is like, I want you, like, sometimes I need to vent. I'm not looking for problem solving. I know how to do that, but I just need to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're there, like, I just need you to listen. Right? So the stages of empathetic listening, the first and the least effective stage is to mimic content. So repeat exactly what they said back to you. So if you said, hey, Michaela, I hate my life, I'd be like, okay, Journey, you hate your life.
Yeah, that's not effective whatsoever.
Quite literally. But that's like, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, I heard what you're saying. But
you said exactly, I hate my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense.
So second is rephrasing the content. So it's still a limited version, but it's not great. So I hate my life. I'm like, okay, so it sounds like you're dissatisfied with life.
Right?
Right? Third is to reflect a feeling. I hate my life. So you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed.
Right. And I feel like you hate your life. Yeah, bitch, because that's what I just said. That's how that goes.
And then fourth, there's like rephrasing the content and reflecting the feeling. This is the best because it forces you to use all sides of communication, right?
Right.
So from the sentence, I hate my life, I could be like, it seems like you are stressed and overwhelmed, which is leading you to be dissatisfied with what you're doing in life. Yeah. And then that would make you feel more understood than me being like a parrot.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, because it's more like reading between the lines. It's like, instead of asking why, you're kind of like, it like, not interpreting, but like intuiting why.
Yeah.
In a sense.
But using the information that they've given you then makes them feel heard and understood 100%. On top of that, right? Instead of like that sucks. How can you make it better? Yeah. Yeah, That's not what that person needs sometimes, right?
It'd be like, well, if you stop doing this, you'd hate your life less.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Tips.
And so as you learn to listen deeply to people, you will discover tremendous differences in perception. Okay. And so it's actually taking the time to be like, this is my friend. Yeah, we have commonalities, but we're not the same person.
Yeah, exactly.
What are our differences? How can we honor our differences and still be good?
Well, yeah, the same thing could happen to both of us, and we would leave with different perceptions of it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And then so the second part of habit 5 is then seek to be understood. right? And so this comes with the first, by describing your ethos, pathos, and logos. So your ethos is your personal credibility, your pathos is your empathetic side, and logos is the logic. And that is the order it needs to go into in order for you to be understood by others.
Oh, okay.
Because it then, like, if in this order, it's effective because it builds personal validity, then moves to the logic.
Right.
But a lot of people try to jump to the logic without the credibility.
Right.
You should listen to me because I'm right.
Yeah.
Well, why are you right? Who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who you are.
Prove to me that you know what. Yeah. Okay. No, I agree with that.
If you describe, like, who you are, what you do, why this is emotional for you, and then this is why you're thinking about the way you are.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I like that.
So that's an effective communication for seeking to be understood. And then, at the end of the chapter, as for the other habits, he offers application suggestions, which is good. Habit 6 is to synergize. And so this first starts with the principles of creative cooperation. So synergy is the essence of a principle-centered leadership and or parenting. It means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So this kind of ties back into why he's like involving the kids in creating the family's motive, right? Yeah. So synergistic communication is when people are able to communicate together with a common goal, work as a unified team rather than from defense. Right. Right? Like, okay, we're all going to do family walks. I don't want to do a family walk. Well, that's tough. We're going for a family walk because it's good for us. Yeah. All right. It's like, oh, would you rather do something else?
Do you want to ride your bike or roller skate, or do you get pushed in the buggy or pulled in the wagon, or would you rather we did something else? Yeah,
exactly.
That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. And so under your levels of communication, there's defensive communication, which is win-lose or lose-win. There's respectful communication, which is compromise. And then there's synergistic communication, which is win-win. And that goes back to habit 4 and why we're kind of time back into how synergy is the win-win mentality. Okay. And so valuing differences is the essence of synergy. It's like, just like what I just said here, like we are different people. Yeah. But we're friends and that's fine. Yeah. And that's good.
Well, even with this podcast, like we have different strengths that we play to with this. Like I have more experience editing, but you are more experienced with social media. So it's just like we use those to kind of work well together.
Exactly. And then so synergy is particularly powerful with dealing like with negative forces that work against growth and change. Okay. So without synergy, the driving and restraining forces may act like a spring. So it's going to push really hard against the spring. Eventually, and then it's going to shoot back. Okay. But synergy basically removes that spring so that you can just go forward.
Okay, cool.
It's like, why? There's no need for the spring. It's just in our way. Yeah. Let's just go forward.
Okay, nice.
And then everything in nature is synergistic. Okay. Right? This is the whole, you can see it in the circle of life and life cycles and the water cycle, and everything is working together.
Yeah, even with like yin yang and feng shui and all of that.
Exactly. Exactly. And so part 4 is renewal. And this is where habit 7 lives. And so habit 7 is to sharpen the saw. And so it's underneath the principles of like balanced self-renewal, it's preserving and enhancing the greatest asset, which is you. So this involves 4 dimensions, which can be found on page 300. And so these dimensions include physical, which is your exercise, nutrition, and stress management. So it's caring for your physical body. Yep. Then there's social and emotional, which is service, empathy, synergy, and intrinsic security, which I really liked that phrase. So I've only heard intrinsic as like motivation, but to have intrinsic security as well is also
that good. Makes sense. Yeah.
And so this is centered on principles of interpersonal leadership, empathetic communication, and creative cooperation. Spiritual is value clarification and commitment, study and meditation. It provides leadership to our life. Okay. So it's like, why are we doing this? What are our core values? Going back to the whole, like, figuring out what your principles are and sticking with that. Yeah. And then there's mental, which is reading, visualizing, planning, and writing. And this primarily comes from a formal education of some form. Okay, yeah. So by adding this as the 4th, it's kind of encouraging you to keep learning as you grow, because a lot of people tend to drop this one when they don't need to learn anymore.
Well, it's important to always be learning and always be learning and growing and evolving, because so much of the world is changing right now. Yeah. That it's really, really detrimental to you to be stuck in one mindset forever and ever, amen.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so being interdependent is knowing that we're a part of a social mirror. So reflecting back to others in a clear, undistorted vision of themselves. This is called scripting.
Okay.
So, but you basically mirror, like, knowing that we're interdependent now. I'm not winning, you're not, like, or sorry, I'm not losing, you're not losing. We're winning together. We're doing this together.
Yeah.
Means that should be reflecting back to you a clear, undistorted vision of you.
Oh, okay, nice.
Because
I like
those
that.
around you are a reflection of yourself.
Oh, I like that. I heard that somewhere else too. Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, so it's really...
Yeah, it was a
fun
TikTok
way.
video about how your partner's a mirror of you. So if you go to your partner, like, so if your partner comes to you and says, I don't like when you do this, you shouldn't be like, well, I don't do that, because they're a mirror. They're showing you what you're doing. Yeah. Okay, fun. I like that.
Yeah. So the self-renewal process must involve balances and renewal in all 4 dimensions. So, and then to describe it, on page 315, it lays it out flat. So the more proactive you are, habit 1, the more effectively you can exercise personal leadership, habit 2, and management, habit 3, in your life. The more effective you manage your life, the more renewing activities you can do, habit 7. The more you seek first to understand, habit 5, the more effectively you can go for synergistic win-win solutions, which is habits 4 and 6.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's how he kind of ties it all together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And he touches on a thing, that concept of the upward spiral, which is basically you learn, commit, do, and you repeat it. And that's how you're going to go on an upward spiral. Okay. It's fun to hear that term because I've only ever heard downward spiral.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And then he finishes up the book with a personal story that embodies the concepts that can be found in the book. And then there's a frequently asked questions section.
Okay, nice.
So, but I was shocked. Well, first of all, it was like... Because my dad's the one who gave me the book, right? He has lived by these concepts.
Yeah.
And now realizing how much of it comes from this book. I've heard many of these sentences my entire life.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And not gonna lie, I was very closed off to this book at 17. And so it's fun to kind of come back to it now and read it as an adult who has started this, like talking about this and going into this realm. And realize there's a lot of concepts that I agree with and I live my life by that are from this book that I didn't even realize that.
It was from it, yeah. No, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been like, because I've been preached interdependence my entire life. And so even describing it to friends, I just find that it's something that comes up in my discussions. Like I think I've had a discussion with you about interdependence too already. And
probably.
Just things like that I just find interesting because I do think that is the way to go about things.
Well, yeah, and it's really important for you to be independent first, which is a good thing about like the way that your parents raised you, is like you are independent so that when you come together with someone, you can be independent. Yeah. Right? Which I think like that makes sense. Like it's the same thing of like when you turn 18 and then you move out. With Bryce's brother, I was like, well, what do I cook? How do I do laundry? What do I do? Like this thing. And it's like, okay, well, then you're dependent on someone to do that for you. Yeah. Whereas when I moved out, like I knew all of those things. So I could be more independent, right? And so then Bryce also had to learn how to be independent first so that we can come together and be interdependent. Yeah. And so it's just like learning how to take initiative and do things for yourself, and so that you can appreciate a partner better too. Like I guess like when you have a partner you can do things with. I appreciate them, and that's what I'm seeing now, like with my relationship, right? We both were very, very independent people. Yeah, exactly. And we're both like, no, like I like you, I like your time, I like you're not draining. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, how can we do this together? And it's nice where there are certain things where you can depend on them for as well, like not to the point of dependence, but like if you can't do that, they can help you kind of thing, that's right? Your task. Yeah. You like doing that. I don't like doing that. Okay, I'll pass it off to you. Exactly. I want to know how to do that. Exactly. But yeah, if the time came up. And so there's a fun little like diagram or whatever that he has this book kind of laid out as that I'll put up on the screen. It's just kind of like an hourglass, but it shows how you move from dependence to private victory to independence to public victory to interdependence, and how habit 7 kind of encircles all of that.
Yeah.
So we'll put that up.
Yeah. And then additionally, there is a quiz that we did that basically lays out where our personal effectiveness is in each habit. And so Jubes and I took that. Yes. And it was fun.
It was enlightening. For sure. For sure. So you go first.
And so for the effectiveness category, it's like highly, mostly, and less. And so highly is scores 85 and above. Mostly is 65 to 84. And less is 64 and below. Yeah. And so under habit 1, it says that I follow in the mostly category at a 78 for being proactive. For habit 2, beginning with the end in mind, I'm an 80. So I'm close, but not quite 84. Right. For habit 3, put first things first, I'm at a 67. Nice. Yep. For emotional bank account, I'm 73. For think, win, I'm a 75. Seek first to understand, then be understood, I'm a 63. Apparently I'm closed off right now. For synergy, I'm 95. I'm apparently highly effective at synergizing, which I can see. Yeah. I'm able to get a lot of people together and make things happen.
That was how you ran the coffee shop too. It was very synergistic. Yeah. You're like, you're good at this. You do that. Great. Love it. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then habit 7, sharpen the saw. I'm 88. So I'm highly effective at habits 6 and 7. Nice. But everything else just kind of falls in the mostly category.
And what was your overall score?
77.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So habit 1, be proactive. I'm at a 45. So that's an F. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. I'm at a 55. Habit 3, I'm at a 44. Emotional bank account, I have a 78. I'm pretty sure that's my highest one. So love that. I think win, I'm at a 70. So I think that's my second highest one. Seek first to understand, then to be understood is 50, which I thought that one was very interesting because I feel like I try very hard to understand what's going on with people.
Maybe you're not listening fully.
Maybe. I don't know. That one was confusing to me. Habit 6, synergize, 63, and then sharpen the saw, 68. So my overall score was 59, which is less effective in almost everything. So that's super fun and funky and fresh, and we love that. But I don't know. I wish that it was something where it was like, because he shows you the answers that you gave on the test underneath it. I wish that he could almost be like, this is what I was looking for. Because I got the scores. I don't know why. Yeah. Right? Like, what specifically do I need to work on for that, right? That's my... Yeah. My struggle with that. Like, I don't understand what these scores mean. And it's like, okay, well, I work to solve problems rather than avoid them. Is this strongly disagree?
Oh, here we go.
Or strongly agree? Like, I just need more of like an explanation almost.
It's based on what you scored for each habit, I think. So more important than the overall score is the score for each habit. Knowing your score for each habit will allow you to identify where you are most effective and focus your study or practice with.
Okay, so I'm not effective in anything.
So it's almost like he's encouraging you to go through the book, learn about what each habit means, and start putting into practice portions of those habits in order for you to be more effective in your communication, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ignore that.
You don't want to try? Or you just don't want to try right now?
I don't feel like being attacked at this very moment in time, so I'm going to push that away until I have the mental space to deal with it.
Does it feel like an attack?
It does, yeah. Huh. Because I thought I was doing good. I think I've come a long ways.
But you might have come a long ways.
I definitely have.
But he doesn't know where you came from.
And that's the problem with this too.
So almost saving this and referencing it a year from now. Yeah. Because then you're able to have like some tangible evidence. It's the same thing as like the first live blood analysis where you feel like everything's wrong with me. I'm failing. Yeah. Right.
And then, going back with more issues and be like, oh, but these things cleared up. And you're like, great. Yeah. We love that.
Yeah.
So
I'd almost encourage you to save that and then revisit it at when you're at a better point or something, or see how things are.
We have a whole video diary of this.
At the end of the day, you can do what you want to do. But
yeah. So that's fun.
And there's also that's the key difference, though. I was trained off of these principles.
Yes, exactly.
So no wonder I have higher scores because I've been practicing this my entire existence.
Life. Yeah. And I read half the book a month ago. So yeah. But no, it is definitely something. There's a lot of the book that I've really tried to make, a lot of what I've read of the book that I've tried to make like more of my life, instead of being like, no, I'm choosing to do this, I don't need to do this, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Focusing on just like little shifts like that so that I'm at least moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Because I would say you have had a lot of growth from what I knew you before. You were a lot more closed off and scared and you know. Yeah,
I've changed a lot in the last year, which is kind of cool.
But
so I've changed a lot in the last 7 years. Like, yeah. So yeah, that's fun. But so that is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And
thoughts? Overall thoughts?
I think it's very, very good. I would definitely recommend people to read it. I wish that he almost had like a condensed version, because it feels like a lot of it wasn't, like, I understand that he needed it to make his point, but I feel like it would be more accessible to people if it was in a more digestible format.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of stories.
He's targeting a lot, like, you have to be like university educated in order to understand a lot of what he's talking about, and that closes off a giant portion of people that can no longer access this information. And it does make sense, and a lot of it is like, well, no duh, I knew that, but it's like he does give you examples of like, this is how you do this is what it would look like, and so it's very good in that scenario.
Yeah I liked it. I was shocked that there were so many principles that I just already live with my life in it. But the same, thinking back on it, no shit, I was raised off of the principles on this book.
Yeah, right? So that's cool.
And where, like, the practice wasn't always perfect. The ideas, I know what is there. And so it was like going into, like, a psychology book where I'm like, okay, I know this.
Yeah.
Right? No, I've had exposure to this. And so it's now just comprehending. So it's almost like I'm reading the book for a second time.
Oh, that's cool.
That's kind of how it felt.
Yeah.
But as you said, at first, when I first read it, I only got 30 pages in, and I didn't touch it again for
and that's exactly it. Of
8 years.
Just sometimes you're not in the headspace to absorb certain media, so don't force it, because you're going to get more out of it when you are open to it.
Yeah.
But so that was good. I would definitely give it like 4 or 5 stars. So
yeah, I'm torn if I want to give 4 or 5. I give 4 because I think it has a lot of good points, and I do think it's a good read. But it wasn't my favorite read we've ever read.
Okay, 4 stars.
But for the principles and the content, it gets at least a 4.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, no, it was very good. Yeah. So 4 for me too.
Perfect.
Alrighty.
Well, that's our book club. So next month we are reading
Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve, Self-Help Exercises for Anxiety, Depression, Trauma, and Autism.
Interesting.
So, it's by Stanley Rosenberg. So, this could be very interesting.
The vagus nerve we've touched on before, but it's basically your master nerve running up your spine. And it has so many, it's what is being stimulated when you go for a massage, and that's often why you feel so relaxed after a massage.
Yeah. It feels like, almost like a workbook. So it'll like, there'll be stories and stuff of like how it worked in people, and then exercises for you to complete to see how it works with you as well. So I think it'll be very, very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm excited for this one. This is like, I love nerves.
Yeah, I think it'll be very, very interesting to see what it's like.
To understanding the cranial nerves and the key of our psychological and physical well-being. Oh, he has his own... built on Stephen Porg's polyvagal theory.
Yeah, so...
Cool. That should be fun. So tune into next month for that.
For more on that.
Cool.
All right.
And otherwise, I am MacJoy.
I'm Mak Jubes.
We are Sometimes Ciabatta Labs on all social media platforms. Our website is sometimesciabattalabs.com. On our website, you can find links to all of our episodes, audio and visual, as well as our affiliate links, our book club reviews, links to all the books. Everything you got to know about us is there.
Yeah.
We're also Sometimes Ciabatta Labs on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok's been lacking.
That's okay.
It's fine. Instagram, we post a lot of like day-to-day life. You can find various like episode clips, things that we find interesting, and polls and interactive.
Yeah, it's a little bit more interactive and personal for us. So
exactly. And on that note, that wraps us up today.
That's enough.
And so we'll see you next Tuesday.
Ta-ta for now.
Bye.